My name is Ahmed. I'm going to be your presenter today. And with me is Apoorv. He's going to be helping me out, posting stuff in the chat, etc. We're going to be talking about serverless GraphQL apps using Slash GraphQL. So this is pictures of us. And this is what you guys are going to learn today. So beginning, we're going to talk about schema design, describing data model as GraphQL types and fields. Then we're going to talk a bit about dgraph and Slash GraphQL. What is it? What's so interesting about it? And how do you get started very quickly? We're going to show off a basic UI of what we're trying to make here today. This UI will be shared with you. We're not expecting you to know React or anything. This is just a demonstration. And then we're going to go into a bit more advanced features like subscriptions, Lambda functions, authentication and authorization, and so on. So before we get started, what is dgraph and why should we use it as a GraphQL server? So dgraph is a native GraphQL database. It has nice features out of the box, such as subscriptions, Lambda, and it's completely horizontally scalable. You get all of these features just by passing it in a schema. You don't need to create resolvers. It's completely scalable. It's open source, and most importantly, it's completely free. And Slash GraphQL is the managed dgraph. So it's a managed GraphQL service that is powered by dgraph under the hood. And you get 3 months of Slash GraphQL completely for free by using the GraphQL Galaxy 2020 coupon code. This will be shared with you after as well, so don't worry about copying this down yet. All right, so let's get started. So we're going to start by just creating a basic schema. Our example is going to be some sort of forum software. If any of you are familiar with Discourse, it's a clone of Discourse. You're going to be able to create posts, comment on those posts, and so on. Very simple. So it's going to be made up of 4 types. A post, a user, comment, and a category. And just so you guys know, feel free to ask questions in the chat anytime. We will answer them in real time, either me or Apoorv. And if you want to see examples, etc., we're more than happy to go into that. So we're going to start adding fields to the post. So we're going to add an ID of type ID. And what this type is it exposes the internal dgraph ID. So you don't actually have to assign this ID yourself. You create a post and it will be assigned an ID automatically. And we'll do the same thing for comment and category. Or just for comment, actually. And for user and category, we want a different kind of ID. For a user, we want the username to be the ID. And the username is of a type string. So it's as simple as actually just adding an @ID directive. And now dgraph understands that this is your primary ID. And this will have some repercussions later. For example, if you create objects inline, for example, I create a post and I say, this is created by this user. If the username matches an existing user, dgraph is smart enough to know that I'm not going to create a new object. I'm going to link it to the previous object. And we'll do the same thing in category. All right. And now we're just going to add a couple of extra fields to both the post, the user, and the comment. So for the post, we're going to start with a title, text, date published, which will be a date time. We're going to add the number of likes on each post, just a basic integer. And then we're going to link the author, which is the user type that we just created. Each post also has a category. and has a number of comments. All right. And then in the user, we have a display name, just in case they don't want their username to be what's shown. An avatar. And a link to all the posts that they have posted. Right, and then finally, we have text in the comment. So string. We have the comment did post. So this is going to link to the post that this is commented on, and the author, which is just a user. All right. And then the last thing we need to add is posts in category. So each category will know the posts under it. All right, so we're nearly done with our schema. We just need to do one more thing, and this is to actually tell dgraph what are the two-sided relationships here. So for example, the user has a list of posts and posts have author. These are two sides of one relationship, right? But dgraph doesn't know that. So what we need to do is we need to pick one of these and add a has inverse directive. And then the field will be the opposite side of this, which will be author. And what this does is this lets you, as you'll see, this will let you actually create inline, for example, create a post and then create a user inline. And then dgraph is smart enough to know that, okay, these are two sides of one relationship. Let me fill in the fields for both. And yeah, out of the box, it will understand how your relationships work. So we're just going to do this has inverse for a couple more fields. Christopher. Yeah, probably. And we can do that for all of our array types. That's a good catch. It's still early in the morning for me, so. All right, so category and posts will be both sides of each other. And finally, we have comments on and comments. Field will be. All right, and this should be enough to get us started. Yeah, that's a good point. So, well, are we passing in? Let me just make sure my example has an array always passed in. Yeah, fair enough. These are good catches. I appreciate the feedback. I just want to make sure that they do. So this should work for us. All right, so now that we have our schema done, it's actually as simple as going to slash.dgraph.io. So this is how you get to slash GraphQL, slash.dgraph.io. You can create an account, or if you've already played around with it, sign in, and you can use the coupon code GraphQL Galaxy 2020. You get 3 free months. And let me just get rid of my existing. Having a null types. Yeah. Oh, good point. Let me add that quickly. So I'm going to create a new backend. We call this GraphQL Galaxy. And it's going to take a bit to sign up, to start up. So if anybody is thinking about following along, they want to try this out for themselves, see how straightforward it is to get GraphQL API working on Slash, now would be the time to do it, because this will take a couple of minutes. And if you guys have any questions about what we've done so far, feel free to post it in the chat as well. All right, I'm just gonna paste the schema and then wait a bit in case anybody wants to follow along. Oh, nice. Christopher, are you using only GraphQL or have you delved into DQL as well? Makes sense. Well, happy that you're enjoying it. Hopefully you keep enjoying it. So I've just gone ahead and updated the schema. And then, as you can see, we've only created a schema. We haven't created any resolvers or anything. But if you open up the built-in GraphQL Explorer, you can see that for both query and mutation, they each have 3 different resolvers for each type created: get, query, and aggregate, and add, update, and delete. So dgraph creates these out of the box completely to our schema. Interesting. I've actually never heard of GraphQL tool stitching. Okay. So yeah, as I was saying, you can see that dgraph creates the resolvers out of the box. So it's very straightforward. You don't have to write any boilerplate. Just pass in a schema and you're good to go. So now we can play a bit with this, but we're going to need some data. So we have some data prepared. It's very superhero themed. So we're going to go with, we're going to have a bunch of posts like Doctor Strange. So Apoorv, he wrote a blog post about Doctor Strange. And I thought it was a great movie, for example. And you can see everything is created inline. Because dgraph now understands your whole graph structure, it's smart enough to create the relationships between these. Same thing over here. I wrote a post about Iron Man. And we're just going to create a quick mutation here. So this is my query variable, and this will be the mutation. So very straightforward. And we're going to go ahead and user requires a value for field post. Right, that's okay. So there is one thing I do need to get rid of. Because we're creating this inline, it creates the user before creating a posts array. So we just need to let that not be, yeah. All right, and you can see that now all the posts are created with the users under, and it's actually smart enough to know that, okay, Apoorv, this Apoorv here is the same Apoorv as here. Same thing with the 2 Ahmeds. And yeah, so now we have some, now we actually have some data to play with. So we're just going to query this data quickly just to make sure that it's working. You can go query user and then username. Title. Yeah, let's just go with title for now. So we want to see all the users and all the posts they've created. So like I said, it was smart enough to create only 2 users and assign the posts to them automatically, even though we didn't tell it to do this, right? We just created the nested structure. Add data mutation. Oh yeah, of course. Like obviously what you're suggesting is good structure, especially adding the exclamation inside. You don't want to have null or at least it wouldn't be fun from a programming perspective to have null inside your array. So we have our data inside, but what if we want to do some basic filtering on, let's say, the text of the post? So it would actually be as simple as adding an @search directive beside the text field, and then this will take in an array of indexes. So there's many different index types. We're going to play around with 2 for now. So to start, we're going to start with the regex. So this is just a basic regex filter. You can pass in regex patterns. The graph will match it to the string or not. All right. So, and the nice thing is that dgraph will update the resolvers dynamically. So we add this index, and if we go back and we start typing, let's query posts, and then you'll see that we have a filter, and we want to filter on text. And the filter we want to use is a regex. So let's say we want to look for any post that has the words, and one thing to note is that any regex pattern has to start and end with the /. So let's say we want to look for the word journey, but we forgot how it's spelled, for example. Okay. So we will want to return any post that has the title. So any post that has journ inside it, we want to return that. So let's go ahead. And then you can see that, okay, while on a journey, physical, blah, 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 it has journey in it. You can do any regex pattern. This can get super complicated if you want. I'm just gonna stick with the basics, but you can feel free to go crazy. But okay, so what if you don't want regex? What if you want, for example, let's say an exact match? You could add a hash, or if you wanted full text search and full text. So let's go add full text. And full text, what this does is it has basic understanding of word comprehension. So for example, if I look for fighting, so let's use query post filter. I'm going to filter on the text field again. What is full text backed by? Honestly, I'm not sure. That's a good question. If you have an idea, Apoorv, I actually have no clue. I don't think it's built into Badger, but yeah, don't quote me on that. All right, so you can see that now we've worked with. Yeah, honestly, that's not something I know. Yeah, so as you can see, now we have 2 new filters that we can use, all of text and any of text. So if we go all of text and, for example, we put fighting, and we return the title. So as you can see, I put in fighting, but this returns after being blah, 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 armored to fight evil. Liam's home to fight a war. So it actually has a basic understanding of words and conjugation, right? So fighting will match fought, fight, as you can see, etc. So this could be pretty cool to add as search functionality. It makes your searching a lot more intuitive. Yeah, and adding searching and filtering is as simple as that. For filtering, it's as easy as going query post, and then you can go first, 1, offset, etc. 10. So all of this is built into the built-in resolvers. You don't have to implement any of this functionality. But let's say you wanted to add, actually, let's cover the subscriptions first, and then we can talk about adding your own custom resolvers. So for subscriptions, let's say I want to subscribe on posts. It's as easy as going to the schema and adding a with subscription index. And let's deploy this. And for this next step, if you want to test this, you're going to need something like GraphQL Playground. The built-in GraphQL Explorer does not support subscriptions. So we'll just go to the overview and grab this. Grab our GraphQL endpoint. And now you'll see that there's actually a completely new type available, subscription. And we'll want to query posts. Well, for now, let's actually just return all of the posts. All right. And you'll see it returns all of the posts, and now it's listening. So let's go to a new tab. Let's try and add a new post. And so let's say the title is Spider-Man. All right, and we'll add some text. Guy gets bitten by a spider. And we want to add a date published. So let's add our date today. Today is what, the 11th? Is. And we need to assign this to an author. We'll just say that I authored this for now. Right, okay. It's not happy of this. I guess I need to pass in the comments as well. Is GraphQL Playground app available as a standalone? I think so. Don't quote me on that, but I remember when I was downloading it, there was a Mac OS option. It's just an Electron app, so should be super easy to port it for, if not. So we need comments. All right. And we've added a new post. And if we go back here, we can see that we actually received all of the posts again. So the one thing to note is that, for now at least, every time you add a new post, or anything changes in the post, you'll actually get the full list, right? It actually runs this whole query again. And adding like diff functionality is very simple, right? So we would just go order, sending, date published, right? So we want the newest dates first, and then we go first one. So let's stop this running. And then you can see it returns Spider-Man. And if we add, for example, Superman, all right. And let's add a date published. Let's say, for example, this is published tomorrow. All right. And you'll see that, okay, it only returns the latest one. Obviously, if you have a very high throughput, for example, you might want to return a couple more than the last one. But yeah, you can see how easy it is to add live functionality to any app that you're thinking. For example, if you wanted to do a US elections tracker, a bit too late for that, but you could just go ahead and use the subscriptions, or if you want a live chat app out of the box, very straightforward and easy to use. You don't have to set up any live tracking from your side. You could return the last page. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so that's really it about subscriptions. It's a very straightforward but very powerful feature. All right. And now the next step to talk about would be Lambda functions. So, yeah, you should try them out. They're very powerful. And like it's super easy to add live functionality to anything. So the next step is, what if we want to add our own custom resolvers? But let's say the logic is a bit complicated. We don't want to, for example, we want to use DQL to pull the most popular posts. Okay. So the first thing you need to do, and I learned this the hard way yesterday, is you have to take your backend to flexible mode. Okay, so what this does is it allows you to use DQL on your backend. My headphones die or what? Let me plug these in just in case then. All right, can you guys hear me now? Hello? Is my microphone still not working? Oh, okay. So how much did you guys hear? Do I need to repeat what I was saying about flexible mode or
Yeah, I think just go over the flexible mode one time.
go over Okay. All right. So, as I was saying, to get this to work correctly, you need to switch to flexible mode because we're going to be using some DQL. And DQL is our graph language. So I was saying that if you're working with graphs, it might actually be useful to get into flexible mode. It gives you a lot of powerful graph functionality like deep traversals, etc. through DQL. And anyways, I'm just waiting for okay, so it's already restarted. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Lambdas tab, and I'm just going to copy this function in and then explain it. No, that's not what I want. All right. Okay, so what I'm doing here is, as you can see, this is plain JavaScript, which obviously makes it a lot more powerful. You can use pretty much any JavaScript function. And soon, I don't know if this is live yet or not, but you can use any NPM package as well. So very powerful, as you can imagine. You can just pull any library and use it in your Lambda functions. But for now, all we're going to do is we are going to just create a function that does a DQL query. And DQL, as you can see, very similar to GraphQL, just more tailored to graphs. All right, and then what we're doing is we are adding on query.popularPost, and we're going to need to edit the schema to change this later. But we're going to add a root level query resolver for popular posts. So let's go ahead and save this. And then let's go back to our schema. go back to. It's taking a bit to fetch. This is probably because it's restarting because we applied the Lambda. So let's just give it a bit too. All right, there we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a type at the bottom. I'm sure you guys are familiar with this already. We're going to add type query. And then we are going to just add a new field. And this is going to return type post, and we can add an exclamation because it will only return posts. Probably even add both. And then what makes the magic happen is we need to add a Lambda directive. And now this is updated. And now if we go to API Explorer, and we can go popular posts, and yeah, just return all the popular posts for me. Let's say the title, the text, and let's say the likes, and the author. Okay. Non-nullable field author. Oh, it's because we're not including the author in our Lambda function. So let's get rid of that for now. And you can see that this is actually returning all of the posts already sorted by likes. So obviously this is a simple example, but I'm sure you can see the power of Lambda functions. It lets you write resolvers in plain JavaScript, use any package, and just assign that either to a resolver or a field out of the box. And you don't need, so the real power of this is you might be able to remove, if you have a basic CRUD app, for example, you might be able to remove your middle API layer completely, do all of the business logic in Lambdas, and so on. So that's it for Lambdas. Is there a good reference? That's a good question. There is video tutorials if that's what your thing. And we're also launching a whole, but this isn't really DQL related, but there's a lot of video tutorials. There's a bunch of blog posts that guide you through building basic apps. For example, there was a to-do app one with React and Vue and all that. And Apoorv, feel free to chime in if I'm missing anything. Nothing comes to mind right now. But yeah, there's videos if you prefer that. Yeah, for sure. Which one are you more interested in, or do you want all of it? All right. All right. Any other questions about Lambda? All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you an example of what we've created so far. This is a bit more of a complicated example. This does a lot of stuff that we haven't done yet, but it's just to get a feel of how easy it is to make a semi-complicated app with Slash GraphQL. And our server is just asleep right now, so this will take a bit to get started. All right, so pretty much this is what we've created so far. Very basic discourse clone, right? We have posts, and you can search through them using the filtering and stuff that we've talked about. But you have posts, users create posts, and then people can comment on them, etc. And what we're going to do here is we're actually going to use this to show you how easy it is to to integrate with services like Auth0 using Slash's built-in authorization. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm just going to grab the cookie that Auth0 sends us here. Then I'll head over to jwt.io. And let's paste this. So the point of interest here really is this little claims that we've added to the token. So pretty much you can integrate any authentication service into Slash authorization, including your own. It's really as simple as using some sort of JWT authentication, then inserting your own custom claims, as you can see here. And the custom claims that we're inserting is a username, very basic, right? If I create a post, this is the username that's assigned to it, and a role, right? So in Auth0, we've assigned roles. For example, some people are admins, some people are users, right? And literally using dgraph authorization is as simple as including these custom claims. And then the second half of this would be going to our schema. And I'll show you an example because we don't have an authentication service right now, and I don't want to bore you guys with taking half an hour to set up Auth0, right? It would be as simple as adding a custom rule, which can be either a query or just a text match. And you can add different rules. So rules are added to types using the auth directive, and each type can have 4 different rules. You can have a separate rule for adding, for querying, for updating, and deleting, right? So you have some pretty fine-grained permissions. And the rules can be complex like this. So for example, what we're doing is we're checking, does the category permissions, right, have a role equal to administrator, and that matches my name, which obviously doesn't exist, right? And if it does, if this query passes, so if this query returns my username, then we're good to go. If not, then I'm not going to be able to do this action, right? And it's as simple as that. So this allows you to have some very powerful functionality. For example, for this discourse app, there is no server. This contacts dgraph directly, and it gets the authentication info from Auth0, passes that into every request to dgraph. And that's it. There's no middle server, no nothing. This whole thing is working on a completely serverless architecture. Yeah, and we're not going to go super deep into auth unless any of you guys are interested for that. But yeah, is there any questions about auth? In the suggested. Okay. Are you interested in seeing the Auth0 side of things, or just how does this work with any authentication service? The endpoint on Auth0 on every request. Oh wow. So okay, I'm guessing you have like Auth0 API stuff, right? Where there's like a middleware. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I can show you a basic example. Let's actually pull this. So the most basic example, let me see if I can find this for you. Next.js auth. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. So no, there is a simpler way. And I can even show you code if you want. But let me show you from the dgraph side how simple it is. So this is a basic to-do app, right? Let me zoom in. Can you guys see my screen? Is it still too small? The text over here. It's good. Okay. All right. So super basic. You would need to do two things, right? First would be to grab your public key from Auth0, which is included in this tutorial, one-time thing, right? And then just tell dgraph what header to expect the JWT on. And then the second thing would be using this auth directive right here. And then, like I said, there's four different, this is locking down the queries. So we're creating a rule, right? So in our JWT, we're going to pull a user, and this is, yeah, capital USER, which is a string. And then we're only going to allow the user to see tasks that match his username, right? Very simple. And then how you get these JWTs, let me open this up for you, would be wherever you're implementing your Auth0 wrapper, you literally, all you would do is you would grab, on the first time they log in, the get the ID token claims, grab the token from that, and then just pass this into the, I'm guessing you're using Apollo client. All you would do is you would tell it, have a new header, authorization, or whatever you set it to. It doesn't have to be authorization. And then you just pass in the token. Very simple, and that's it. No more authorization from your side. Everything works seamlessly. Does that answer your question, or do you want more detail? Okay, perfect. So any other questions about authorization, authentication? Or honestly, anything. We're planning to leave a bunch of time to do any examples that you guys are interested in seeing, etc. So if there's anything you want to see, you're wondering how difficult it is to get done on Slash GraphQL, that would be the chance. Or if you have any questions like, why should I use Slash GraphQL? Is this a good fit for my use case? Whatever. What do you need to do in Apollo? Okay, so I already have this open. So really all you need to do is create a WebSocket link, right? We're gonna share this project with you. So if you're using React, you can just copy paste from here. But yeah, all you need to do is you need to create a WebSocket link, right? And then you want to pass the different kinds of links into, let me show you where. So when you're creating the Apollo, right, you have all of these links which are concatenated into the auth link, and then Apollo is smart enough to understand what link it needs to use for what. Hopefully that answers your question. And like I said, that's going to be, yeah. So Apoorv has shared it, but it's also going to be included in a follow-up email, having everything that you need. Any other questions? So I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes. And if anybody missed something and they want to see it again, feel free to ask. We're open to that. All right. Well, it seems like you guys don't have any questions, but we appreciate you guys attending. All the content we have for now. If anybody, like last chance, if anybody is interested in seeing anything or asking any questions, now would be the time. But you can also, we'll be hopping into the Discord, the Git Nation Discord for the next couple of days. So if you have any questions there, feel free to tag either me or Apoorv, and we will hopefully answer any questions that you have. So thank you for coming, and we hope to see you at the next dgraph webinar, if there is any. Well, thank you guys for attending.